Welcome to Between the Sheets, the non-judgmental podcast where we're going to cover various sexual health and wellness topics. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer. I'm a urology and sexual health nurse practitioner, and I love helping my patients and listeners discover and develop their most satisfying sexual experiences. Between the Sheets is here to normalize the conversations about sexual health and cover everything from basic anatomy to the most taboo topics and everything in between. Real talk, real pleasure, one episode at a time. So come on, let's get between the sheets. This episode is sponsored by Boston Scientific and its educational website on erectile dysfunction, edcure.com. One study estimated that more than 50% of men over the age of 40 have some degree of erectile dysfunction, which can be frustrating and confusing. Go to edcure.com to find information on erectile dysfunction and treatment options, including long-term treatment options offered by Boston Scientific. Boston Scientific does not endorse any statements or opinions expressed during this episode. Welcome back to Between the Sheets. We are going to tackle a topic about cycle syncing today and how women can have better sex lives, better lives in general, and how their partners are going to benefit from this as well. So I'm so excited. We have Renae Fieck with us today. She is a cycle syncing expert. She helps women develop their businesses around their cycle. And today we're going to tackle more of the sexual side of things. But welcome, Renae.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this too, because this is not maybe a new phenomenon, but maybe more of a new popular phenomenon.
Yeah.
That we're learning about that, we all know as women that we have different energy levels, different feelings, different get the fuck away from me. And yet, the next day you're like lovey-dovey. So we all know that, but there really is some science behind it and some ways to adapt our life to live better because of the cycle, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And I mean, I think one right now it's becoming more and more popular because there's more research, right? Women haven't really been included in medical studies and medical research, one. And then two, actual research done just on women, like let's experience what's the phenomenon of being a woman. It's only been within the last couple decades. Like it has not been around for a very long time. And so as we are starting to see new and new research it's growing and exploding. Like it's probably the same, like, I don't know if it's just me, but like I get tons of information about perimenopause and menopause, same area, right? Like these two areas of women's health are getting so much more research, so much more information about, wow, we aren't just mini men and our bodies do function in a very different way. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. I think that's a lot of the clients I've worked with is really thinking like, wow, I really need to be working in the same way as men. I need to be exercising the same way as men. I'm maybe not even in their mind saying that they need to do it like men, but that idea of like, there's something wrong with me because I can't stay consistent or I can't do it in the way that society is telling me I need to do it. When in reality, most of the information is just built around how men operate and not how women operate. And I think we will continue to see it grow and expand and explode as we start doing more research and as we start learning like, wow, a woman's brain is completely different. So everything in your body, like every single day of the month, you have different levels of different hormones. Like it is so vastly different from day 1 to day 7 to 21 all the way through.
Yeah. And I think what we're also learning is how much more the hormones do in our body than we originally thought. The estrogen, the testosterone, they're not just sex hormones.
Yeah.
They have effects on your brain. They have effects on your heart. They have effects on all these different body systems. And yet we've been labeling them as a sex hormone for all these years. And so I think it's just a total reprogramming of how we think about hormones and lifestyles in relationship to them.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. It's like, I just started testosterone therapy this week. I'm like, oh, it'll be interesting to see. But when I went and had labs done, my testosterone was like abysmally low, like way low. And I was like, these are the symptoms that I'm having. And when you look at it, it was like, wow, it makes sense. Like, these are the things I'm feeling. And this is what my labs are showing me. Like, it just makes sense, And I had to go out of pocket
Mhm.
to a functional doctor, like somebody who's willing to dig into that. I had done it the conventional route, went through my regular PCP and then the regular gynecology and like all like I went through those steps and I was labeled as everything's normal, everything's
Mhm.
fine, you know? And so I think we will start to see way more as people start learning more and leaning into it and there's more
Mhm.
research and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, being in urology, I treat men's low testosterone all the time. And all they have to do is
Mhm.
come in and say, I have less libido. I have less energy than I used to, less stamina, whatever. And I'm like, let's work up your testosterone. For
Yeah.
women, you're right. We have to go out and seek to even find a specialist
Yeah.
that will look at our stuff because it's not taught. I can tell you, it wasn't taught in my NP school. It's not taught in med school. I work with physicians. They tell me it's not taught. And
Mhm.
so it's really fascinating that there is this huge part of our body that doesn't get talked about and
Yeah.
yet is in every single body function and the way that we live our lives.
Yeah. It impacts us every single day.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so
Yeah.
fascinating. So
Yeah.
before we get into the sex stuff, because that's
Yeah.
obviously what I want to focus on, it's a sex podcast, but
Totally.
there are some things you usually work with business owners.
Mhm.
So, what are some like tips and tricks for women to just excel at life when they
Yeah.
start to learn about their cycle?
Well, I think like we were just talking about, like I think it's really important to understand what's happening, right? Most
Mhm.
women, we know when our period's here, but for a majority of women that I talk to, a lot of them don't like they're almost surprised when it comes. Like we, it's like, oh, it should be here around maybe this time of the month, but then it shows up and it's like, oh, it was a surprise. And so it really is first kind of like understanding what's actually happening there. So we have essentially four different phases, how estrogen and progesterone play out throughout the month. So in the very first phase is our menstrual cycle. That's when our hormones are at their lowest.
Mhm.
So everything's cleansing out, we're bleeding out. It's a lot of purging, a lot of cleansing, a lot of detoxification in a lot of ways, like really cleansing things out. That's the time of the month when most women feel it, maybe the lowest energy physically,
Mhm.
like because you're losing a lot of iron, you're losing blood, you're just like a little bit drained. Oftentimes I find that people don't mislike this phase as much as they hate the luteal phase that comes right before it. The luteal phase
Okay.
has all the emotions and all the intensity that's the part they're like, wow, I'm the raging lunatic during that phase. That when the menstrual
Yeah.
cycle comes, I'm actually feeling alive again. Like I actually feel
Yeah.
myself. But that is the phase when you might need to rest. You might want to recharge. You might want to take a break. You might give yourself permission to not make dinner and just
Mhm.
order takeout, or maybe go for a walk instead of hitting a really hard workout or things of that nature. Like
Mhm.
really just listening to what your body needs during that phase. And then as estrogen starts to pick up, that's when women start to feel ready. They have momentum again. They're like excited. You might be like saying yes to new projects. You might be saying yes to a new workout plan. Like it's this, you're like, I'm alive. Like, let's go. There's all this energy. And then we
Mhm.
reach the top of that estrogen curve when we ovulate. And that's when we feel the most magnetic, the most radiant, the most glowing. It's like the between the sheets time of the month. Like we're like,
That's right.
I'm ready for this because your body is physically trying to make a baby. Like that's what it wants to do
Mhm.
physiologically, biologically. And so it's ready for that and it's amped
Mhm.
and it's going. So women oftentimes feel amazing during this time. Like
Mhm.
they're like sexy and beautiful and wonderful. And like I can communicate and I can talk and all of these things. And then that estrogen dips off and then progesterone kicks up. And as progesterone kicks up in that last luteal phase, can have a whole host of different things happen. A lot of women will talk about like different emotions pop up and like feeling anxious or feeling overwhelmed. Some people feel really more relaxed and calm, but they don't want to talk to anybody. Like, don't make me leave my house. I just want to
Yeah.
curl up on the couch. Or there can be all these fears and doubts and limiting beliefs and things that populate up in that phase. And so that becomes a really tender time too of really understanding like, what do I need right now? What does my
Mhm.
body need right now? How can I listen to that? Like, there's been plenty of times with my kids, I'm like, guys, I just need space right now. Like, I need to go for a walk. I
Yep.
need you guys to fend for yourself and
Mhm.
figure out what you're eating for dinner. Like, I need a breather. Like, let me go. And so it really then becomes like more about strategies of how do I honor myself and honor where I'm at right now, rather than just trying to push through and being like angry woman, like I can't survive type of person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's so interesting too, because I can relate as you're talking through this. I'm like, oh, yep, that's. But
yeah.
what's interesting for me is I knew when I was starting perimenopause because my timeline shifted. When I
Hmm.
get really irritable, when I get, don't touch me, I need space,
Yeah.
all those things shifted. And I was like, well, this is weird. I usually got that way before my period. Now I'm getting that way on my period or whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, I bet I'm starting to have my fluctuations and changes. And I have been chemically enhanced with birth control for many, many years. So it just, I know when my period's coming. I don't have any
Hmm.
questions. I don't have any of that stuff. But it is a difference in how things change.
Yeah.
And I found that so fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause really quick. All right. So when women are trying to like kind of figure this out,
Hmm.
what are some ways that they can, like adapt their lifestyle to, these phases? Like like you said, maybe you take
Hmm.
on a new project here, but then what happens when you're crabby and don't touch me and now you've taken on this new project and you
Yeah.
still have deadlines to meet?
Yeah. 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 I think there's a little bit of a balance to it, right?
Mhm.
Because not everything in our life is always going to match up with our cycles. Like chances
Yeah.
are you and I right now are in completely different phases of our cycle.
Mhm.
I mean, like magically sometimes it works out, but for the most part, when you think of like the billions of people around the world and the things and the things that we do in our lives, like it's not going to always match. So one, I think just becoming aware changes everything. Like
Okay.
awareness, literally alone can change so much, because you can be like, I am literally freaking out right now. And then just that awareness of, oh, where am I in my cycle right now can completely diffuse the intensity or the stories, the labels, the things that we make of that feeling.
Hmm.
So, we can be like, I am feeling so anxious right now. I don't know why I do this. I get so overwhelmed. I'm like so horrible. And then we can go down this like mental spiral.
Hmm.
But knowing like, hey, I'm just in my luteal phase right now. Okay, that can curb those thoughts like almost immediately. And
Okay.
so it can get us off of that wheel really quickly. Even then, okay, I'm in my luteal phase. I'm feeling all these things. Like, what do I actually need right now? So
Hmm.
that awareness of just like pausing and knowing can be a game changer in and of itself for women. If you just know that, like I have women that'll say like, oh my gosh, I was feeling this way and I realized where I was and now I
Hmm.
just feel so much better. Like it feels so much easier. I understand why I feel this way. Put
Yeah.
some reason to it. And then on top of that, then the next layer is actually sort of adjusting things. Like maybe in that menstrual phase and the luteal phase, you're doing more walking, you're doing more yoga, you're doing slower intensity stuff. Like physiologically, you are more prone to injury.
Hmm.
The way progesterone acts
Okay.
on our bodies, like our ligaments and our muscles, like things get a little bit more lax and loose. So if you're going on a really intense workout, like you are setting yourself up for
Mm.
potentially having increased injury during that time. It's all about listening to your body. As we go through this, like I don't want you hearing anything and saying, oh, Renae says because I'm in my luteal phase, I cannot go for a run. Like
Right.
that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, can we strip back the societal norms and pressures that we've been taught and told and instead start listening to like, what does my body actually say? What is my body actually feeling and lean into
Hmm.
that? So in those, more luteal, the luteal and menstrual phase, I kind of call them the inner phases. They're the phases when you want to slow down and turn inward and really ask those deeper questions of yourself. That follicular phase and ovulatory phase is when you want to put your energy out into the world. So it's like introverted, extroverted sort of elements of us in the month. Like, let's push, let's project, let's put out there, let's hustle, let's put the big projects out there, do the big things, go big, talk to people, all those things. But also, we need to recalibrate too. Like, we need to make sure that there's this, I read something yesterday that was like, balance doesn't exist, balance doesn't exist. And I hear it all the time. And I'm like, balance doesn't exist in the same that like everything's the same every day,
Hmm.
but we as humans do have a balance. We have like a checks and flows of like, hey, let's do all this efforting, let's do all of this work, let's be out in the world and do all the things, and also you do need to take care of yourself, and you do need to slow down, and you need to adjust. And so kind of using that as markers. I oftentimes recommend that people start slow rather than feeling like you have to change everything in your life to match up with your cycle. Maybe just putting your cycle on your calendar. And so that when you are going to make an appointment, like when I go and somebody's like, hey, can you meet with me on this day? And I look and it's like day 2 of my cycle. I'm like, can we wait maybe a week? Like having just even that awareness, like when you're scheduling appointments and saying like, hey, I'm going to be in my, like, I don't want to get out of bed phase. Is this an appointment I can even just wait 5 days? So like even having that little bit of steps, then you can grow on that and plan on that. Like everything in our lives, like we're going to talk about like sex and stuff like that, like everything in our lives can adjust for our cycle if we really truly wanted it to. But you don't have to do all of it in order to really start feeling those benefits.
Okay. You mentioned putting it on your calendar. Are there any, I know there's tons of apps out there for cycle monitoring and stuff. Do you have a couple that are your favorite?
Honestly, I love my Aura Ring.
Okay.
I love it because I don't have to think about it. Like I don't have to, and especially I'm 40. So I'm on the beginnings of, I feel like perimenopause. And so my cycle's changing and things like that. Just what's on my calendar on my repeat schedule may not be actually accurate to what my body's doing. And so the Aura is really great for me to be able to like, okay, this is where I'm actually at. Like my sister recently, she said, what happens when you've planned everything out by your cycle and then it shows up 5 days early? And I was like, well, if you were tracking actual ovulation, it wouldn't have showed up 5 days early because you would have known when you ovulated.
Right.
I think that's another big thing is like, if you can, ovulation is actually your queen. She's the queen, right? You feel like a queen, you feel amazing, all these things, but she's really the queen of the cycle because if you're not ovulating, then that luteal phase doesn't really change much. So it's not like that, like I have a 12-day luteal phase. So I know from ovulation to period is 12 days. So if I haven't ovulated, I know she ain't coming on the day that I originally predicted. And so ovulation is really the one that most, if you watch ovulation, she tells the whole story. She tells the whole thing of what's happening in your body. She tells you if you're not ovulating. She tells you, she's the one you want to track. So I love my Aura Ring for that. The Apple Watch, also the new ones, they will track ovulation if you wear it overnight. So it'll track it's your temperature. They're tracking your basal body temperature, giving you an idea of where you are in that phase, in that cycle. I love those. I love the biometric component of things that we use. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So, with cycle syncing, obviously you can work with fertility on that. There's some people on here who are either interested in having babies or are having some infertility issues. I am well past that phase and do not need to revisit that phase. So this is not particularly for me, but what are some tips for those who are actively trying to work with their cycle and like what should they pick up on and things?
Yeah. Well, so external cues that your body is reaching that ovulation phase would be like increased cervical mucus. Your libido naturally will increase. Physiologically, we have different changes in our skin. There's saliva tests that you can do that will show different, like as you get closer and closer to ovulation, your saliva changes. Literally everything in our body changes. I know. That was like when I was trying to get pregnant, I'm like, you spit on this little microscope, you let it dry. And the closer you are to ovulation, the more fern-like it looks. Otherwise, it's just like little blobs of, it must be like the salt crystals or something changes in your body. But there's all kinds of different things that indicate your body is reaching that ovulation state. So that would be something if you were definitely in that phase of looking to get pregnant, like I'm not there anymore either. Like 9 years post my littlest one, I'm like good and done. I remember
I'm taking my oldest back to college next week, so I'm so far gone. Like, the thought of having to go through all of that again is like terrifying to me. So I'm very glad I'm past that.
When I went to get my like testosterone injection, she's like, "Are you planning to become pregnant at all now or in the near future?" I was like, "Hell no, please no."
I'm a great Aunt Steph, though. I love my friends' babies. I love that people are still having babies around me. I can play with them and love on them and then say, see you later. I'm going to go get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, totally. I'm a therapist in the NICU. So like I can go in there, hold them, feed them, touch them, help in that phase, but I don't take them home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, I think, honestly, it's so much of just listening to your body. There's so much
Yeah.
nutrition that we can do to support
Okay.
our bodies. There are a lot of just different ways that our bodies, like, I think we're in an era, I really do think we're in a new era of people really understanding like what's actually happening in my body. And I think a lot of it's coming
Hmm.
from biometrics and
Hmm.
us like understanding, hey, what's actually going on. I think another part of it is more of this new research and functional labs and different, research on women. I think we are in an era of like, how can we come back to actually listening to what's happening in our bodies and create customized plans? Like, I'm sure you see this too. It's like,
Hmm.
there are no one size fits all that
Right.
are going to support everybody. And every hormone, every body, everything is different. And everything we do is impacting that.
Hmm.
I recently have been wearing a glucose monitor and just I realized like how much going for a walk after you eat. And people say it, right? Go for a 10-minute
Yeah.
walk after you eat. But I'm like, holy hell, it's true.
Yeah.
Like it is
Yeah.
so true. Like going for a walk after you eat makes such a huge difference. And so like
Hmm.
just having those nuances of like really listening to your body, I think is a missing component in the fertility space. There's so
Yeah.
much on like I think I mean I didn't go through it thankfully, and I feel for women who do, but I think
Hmm.
there's this element of like our bodies being betrayed us and that something's happening to us, right?
Hmm.
Like we have this goal, we have this desire, and there's something that like our body is malfunctioning. It's not
Yeah.
doing what it's supposed to do. And so I think that alone, that energy creates such a disconnect from our bodies of like, I have to go outside of me and figure
Hmm.
out what to do and how to fix it. And I think that there's a disconnect there that we really coming back to our bodies and supporting it and listening to it and
Hmm.
understanding like, okay, what does my body need and how can
Hmm.
I honor and support her where she's at?
Yeah, and I love that. And I think, from my perspective, being in, and I know you're in medicine as well, but because I
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of my billing and stuff and prescribing medications and things like that, one of the other things that I think contributes to this era that we're in is how shitty insurance is.
Yeah,
And they will tell me what I can prescribe to a patient
totally.
versus me knowing what's best for that patient and
Yeah.
things like that. And so, that is a whole other discussion for a totally different type of podcast that we're not going to get into.
Yep.
But I think that is also contributing to people taking ownership for themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
how can I make myself better and myself live longer? Because my insurance isn't doing jack shit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Totally.
think I think like you're saying, like we're more aware and the research is there, but we also don't have the support. And so we have to go to ourselves,
Yeah.
to professionals that are outside of the box, like yourself with cycle syncing, things like that,
Yeah.
where we can find these other ways to make ourselves healthier, make our lives better without
Mm-hmm.
going the traditional routes anymore.
100%. I think, I mean, just the basis of like how medicine operates right now is such
Hmm.
it's not preventative. What's the other word? It's like symptom management. That was like when
Correct.
I went to my doctor originally and she ran a bunch of labs. It was all just symptom management.
Hmm.
She's like, I can prescribe you birth control and I
Hmm.
can put you on an antidepressant. And I was like, that's not what I want.
Right.
I want to
Right.
actually figure out what's happening and help support it from the inside out, whether that's through food. I don't
Hmm.
think we realize enough in this country how much our food is impacting everything that's happening inside of our bodies. And I think
Yeah.
the more that we learn, the more we're going to see like, wow, that is a huge, huge factor is our food,
Yeah.
our water. I don't think a lot
Hmm.
of people really even realize like how much our water is impacting our hormones. And then all the toxins and the pesticides and all those things like 5 years ago or so, got diagnosed. I like have an allergic reaction to every fragrance.
Yeah.
And it was causing these like lupus type responses in my
Mm.
body. And now I'm like, okay, I'm allergic to it. But when I look at it, like nobody should be using these. Like
Right.
it's not just me because I'm allergic to it, but like these are toxic
Hmm.
for everybody. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful my body said, hell no, we can't take it anymore.
Right.
But I think we're going to learn like all of these little components, all of these
Hmm.
little factors, they all add up and they all make
Yeah.
such a huge difference on how our hormones are running. And I think a majority of women, and I don't have stats, but I would say a majority of women in our country have some sort of hormonal problem to some
For
effect,
sure.
or they will at some point in their life. And I think a lot of it comes from all of these little things, all these
Right.
little habits that when, like you said, we take ownership over it, we take that awareness, dig into the research, we dig into the education, and we make small adjustments. Like it can feel overwhelming at one point. I was like, holy hell, there's like, I gotta eat food that's grown within less than 100 miles of me. And I need to have a reverse osmosis system and like all these pieces. It's like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But what can we do? Like, how
Right.
can we make those small shifts?
Right. What's one thing I can do this
Yeah.
month? What's one thing I can change next month? And I think you're right. I think
Yes.
agriculture is going to have its moment coming up because, you know, we've put farmers on this back bend. We've pigeonholed them into creating specific types of food with specific pesticides and things like that. And I think we're really going to see a movement. I think you're right. Okay, so let's move into how to make our sexy lives better with our cycle. So, you know, just listening to how you're talking about, you know, just how it's affecting our touching, our interests, our libidos, all of these things, I can already tell there's going to be certain times of the month where we are, or certain times of the cycle, I should say, not the month, but the cycle where we're sexy and we want the intercourse or the playing or the flirting or the whatever. And there's other times where we're going to be like, if you come within 10 feet of me, you will get smacked. Yeah. So talk to me about that. Like, how can we make our sex lives better? What should we be taking advantage of to really just enjoy that part of ourselves more?
I would say, like, for most women, and I'm going to just like put that caveat out there that like every woman is going to be a little bit different and every stage of life is going to be a little bit different, right? Like that do not touch me may become a little bit more intense as we move towards perimenopause and menopause. Like I told my husband that recently. I was like, hun, it's not you. Like I promise you, it's not you. It's like my skin cannot handle any touching right now.
Yeah.
Like
that's exactly what it is.
Can't like and he's like, but you cuddle with the kids or whatever. So we learned, I'm like, I can cuddle somebody else. I can cuddle you, but you cuddling me just feels claustrophobic. It makes my body like cringe. Like I cannot do it. So fun. So I say that like most women are going to probably feel the most libido, the most like ready to go, the most confident, the most like you can communicate what you want, your desires, all of those things the most around that time of ovulation. So maybe like a couple days after menstrual phase, like after you've actually like stopped bleeding, maybe not even stopped all the way bleeding, but you might start to feel that. You might start to feel that pick up even in that phase. So I would say that is your time to, I mean, even for in business or exercise or whatever, that's the time when we tell people to like try new things, to do things, you know, outside of your box, out of your comfort zone. Like that would be your time. Like if you want to play and explore
your
and
fantasy.
do anything new or whatever, that's probably that is going to be the time when you feel ready to do that and you feel confident to do that and you're like excited to do that. In that luteal phase, you know, oftentimes women like that might be, you need a little bit more of that intimacy, more of that connection, more of, it might be a little bit more foreplay and a little bit more of that sensuality, that like deeper, because that's when your emotions are going to be high, right? It's like this sense of more of a, like, I want to nurture my heart. So you think like, how can I engage in sexual activity that's more nurturing, that's like this deeper love connection that I'm exploring anything and getting wild and doing any of my fantasies, right? I am personally one of those people that I've like never gone down the route of sexual play during my period. It's like a time when I'm just like, it's my off week. I'm good. I'm happy. But I know a lot of women do. And I've heard from a lot of women that really love the sensations and the feelings and the intensity that they get in that phase. And so really there's no like hands off, no rules. It's about you and about learning how to communicate that. So I will say like that the ovulation phase is going to be your prime time for communicating new things like that, and opening up about communication is going to be easier. Whereas in that luteal phase, you might feel a little bit more unsure and a little bit more self-doubt about like, I don't know, I don't feel really great, I don't feel wonderful, and populate stuff up there. Also, communication is huge. Like it doesn't matter what phase of the cycle you're in, being able to communicate that to your partner, because your partner may have no idea.
Right.
like that. Like, right. My husband was like, why do you not want me to hold you? Like, why can I not cuddle you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it's like, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And so that same level of awareness that we talked about in the beginning, like having your partner have that awareness and like, know,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, okay, this is what she needs. This is how I can support her in this phase
Yeah.
will be huge for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm really big on communication as well. I think,
Hmm.
obviously any relationship you have, you need to have good communication, but especially whoever you're intimate with, because our likes and our dislikes change. What feels good and
Yeah.
what doesn't feel good changes. Our fantasies change, things like that. Some people don't even know they have fantasies because you have to explore that side of you. And so I love knowing that kind of like right leading into that ovulation phase is where maybe you have a little bit more confidence. Maybe you can have that conversation you've been a little
Hmm.
nervous about having and then try some of those things out. And then maybe that next week, when you're in that luteal phase and you're a little bit more emotional, you can kind of rehash things and be like,
Yeah.
it did make me feel good, or it didn't make me feel good, or that wasn't what I expected, or whatever. And you have that little more sensual time and kind of like reflective, a little slower. And I like that. I like learning
Yeah.
these little tidbits. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I think it's fun too, like, like the variety, right? Like, who
Hmm.
wants to get, I mean, maybe some people do like get into bed and have the exact same thing, the exact same, like, you're like
Yeah.
Mondays, Mondays every single week, we do the same routine and the same
Right.
thing. Like, and maybe some people really love that and that's like
Yeah.
working for you and that's great. But for me, I'm one of those people, like, I love variety in my life. Like, I
Hmm.
hate having the same thing consistent. And that's why, like, learning about cycle syncing was so amazing for me because I'm like, I hate consistency. I hate having the same thing all the
Yeah.
time, right? I like the ebb and the flow. I like the benefits of consistency that you put in the same work over
Hmm.
time, it grows. But I like the consistency that I get to do it in a monthly rhythm and like each day is
Hmm.
different. And so it kind of goes the same thing with when you look at your sex life. Like, you get variety, you get different
Yeah.
types of experiences, different types of engagements, different types of opportunities, fantasies, explorations that can be
Yeah.
different throughout the month, and all of them unique and all of them bringing some magic to the
Hmm.
relationship that if it just was the same all the time, it wouldn't necessarily have the same effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And even if you do have somewhat of a planned sex life, whether it's
Hmm.
because you have date night on a certain night because that's when you can get a babysitter, or
Hmm.
you're dating and so you only see each other certain nights of the week, or whatever, even though it's kind of planned because
Yeah.
that's the time you have available for it, it doesn't mean that totally takes the spontaneity out. Or,
Hmm.
like some of my guys who have erectile dysfunction and they need to kind of plan because they got to take their medicines and things like that. And
Yeah.
so, it's okay to have planned spontaneity, if you will,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you can still explore within that moment in that time. And like, I love, like
Hmm.
this morning before we did this interview, I took my everything shower. I did my hair, I did my shaving, all of those things, because I'm seeing my boyfriend later tonight. And it makes me
Yeah.
feel sexy this morning. And I'm going to feel sexy all day now because I took that time for myself and I got myself all ready. So by the time I see him tonight, yeah, I know that tonight's my night with him, but it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how it happens or when it happens during that time together. So there's still some
Yeah.
spontaneity in that. And I love that because some people do have to plan. And you think early on, that's all you ever did when you were on a date. You knew this is my date. It's either going to happen during the date or it's not. But that's, we all wear our pretty underwear, we shave beforehand or whatever because we're planning on it. So I never think that planned sex is a bad thing. You can still be
Yeah.
spontaneous in that
Yeah.
moment. But I do think that it's kind of cool to look at your cycle now and say,
Hmm.
okay, maybe my planned part is we can be a little bit more wild. And then my planned part is that we're going to be a little bit more sensual and more the love making versus the
Hmm.
fucking. And it's kind of cool that you can kind of plan that ahead, but yet still be spontaneous in what you're actually feeling that day, that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think it's like looking at just how your body is operating, like how
Yeah.
you are showing up, right? And I think it's not exactly the same for men, but men have their testosterone runs in a pretty predictable
Hmm.
pattern day to day to day. It may change over their lifespan or it may change slight variations, but for them, it has that same sort of rhythm pretty
Hmm.
consistently. And how we don't, like, ours
Right.
one day is totally different. So we can kind of look, if we have like a male partner, and kind of assume their level of being turned on or not is probably pretty consistent. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
probably pretty similar. You're going to probably be the big variation factor to that.
Right.
Like not in every case, right? Like if your husband or your partner has had like a really rough day or whatever, like there's always going to be external other factors.
Right.
But that hormone shift that women have is a very drastic impact on how we feel, like our level of being touched or not being touched, or our level of like, hey, I want to be held, but I don't want anything more than that, or whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
is really going to drastically impact. And it just comes down to the one, like we talked about, like awareness and communication. And when we bring those two things together and like have this awareness and open communication, I think that that's the thing that will change all of it. Like regardless if it's planned or if it's not, or if it's spontaneous or it's not, or it's got gaps of time in between or not, or whatever. It's like just having that sense of like, this is what's happening with me. This is where my body's at. These are my desires. I think that's a big thing. Desire is something I talk with my clients a lot about, because I think overall women are kind of taught to keep their desires at bay. We're taught to not really tap into desire. Like desire is something that's shameful or whatever, like in a lot of different ways, not just sexually, but like desire in and of itself is something that women systemically and culturally have been kind of taught to keep away. And so I think it's one of these things of just like listening into like, what is that desire? What is my body really asking for? What do I really want to do? What, like, how can I explore myself a little bit deeper and a little bit more, and then be able to communicate that with somebody else and understand what that thing, so that we have that deeper connection.
Yeah. No, I think it's so smart. And it's interesting because you're right. The men's cycle is basically a 24-hour cycle. Their testosterone's peaking in the morning. It kind of goes off later in the day. So a lot of times guys who are starting to have erectile issues and things like that, morning is the best. Get them in the morning, you're going to get great sex. But for us, I'm seeing what you're saying. Like it's a longer process and it's drastic because first of all, we have multiple hormones that are affecting us more significantly. It's not exactly day to day. It's kind of like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I like that that's kind of, and I think it gives you something to talk to your partner about too, especially if they're a male partner and they don't go through those changes, to be able to say like, I don't have control over this. This is my hormones. This is where I'm at. And kind of getting away from, the whole, when men would ask, well, are you on your cycle right now? Or, like, where are you at? And we would get so mad at that. It's like, oh, well, maybe that's actually a really great question, and just kind of take a second and say, oh yeah, I'm not in that space today. I'm in this space, and let's go here instead of there and whatever. I think it's so interesting to start to, like you said earlier, once you're aware of it, then you can start to do things differently, or even just accept, like, that's where I'm at today. That's why I'm this way. I'm good. I'm not crazy. I'm just hormonal.
Yeah. And even, I mean, like, just from our own, like, this is talking about, like, what do I need and how do I express that? But thinking about our partners too, like, they have their own insecurities, they have their own doubts and things like that. And I mean, you would imagine, I'm putting myself, I'm not a man and I don't know, but you imagine like if your partner just all of a sudden was like repulsed by you, didn't want to be with you, and is like, don't touch me, don't talk, like just can't handle, like that could impact their own fears and their own insecurities and their own doubts and their own dysfunctions and like all of these things, that if even that communication appeased that for them too, like you're now just setting yourselves up to like, hey, he's recognizing like with my husband, I'm like, honey, it is not you. It is like my body right now. And like, it has nothing to do with you. I still love you and I still want you. But I just, not today. Like my body's just not there. And so, having that communication, I think one, it not only helps serve our own bodies and what our own needs are, but they're supporting them and their heart and their connection and their sense of self as well. And I think that's a valuable piece of the conversation too, that we're helping keep, not, I don't want to say to integrity, but like their value, their worth in it as well.
Yeah, and just acknowledging that we do have changes, and our partners see that. Just because we feel it and we're experiencing it, our partners are experiencing it right along with us. Like, oh, which version of Steph am I getting today? Right? Like, It's so funny. But I think, yeah, having that communication and that openness and not shame around, oh, well, it's that time of the month or it's that week or whatever. Like, no, embracing it and saying, yeah, it is that week. And so I'm sorry, I'm a little irritable and I'm aware of it and you're aware of it. So let's just try and not make me more irritable by being a douchebag.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, how can, like in those phases, like how do you, instead of just, I think this is where society has been is like, oh, like you said, just oh, it's that time of the month, like, and writing it off as if it's like a lower or a less than time of the month. And that is one of the big pieces, like I am here, like really wanting to rewrite is that all of the different phases have so much value to a woman. We need all 4 of those different phases. We need the different elements that each of them bring. So rather than just writing it off and being like, hey, oh yeah, it's that time of the month, like check marks, like this sucks. This is like a less than week. It's like, how do we tap into the energy of what this week is? And how do I really support, maybe if you're a partner, and like, how do I really support her during this phase so that she feels like a freaking rock star when she comes around in that next phase? Because I guarantee if more women were given like the permission to actually recharge themselves, to refresh themselves, to like really nurture themselves during that phase, like men or your partner, whatever, like whatever gender is involved, like the next phase, that woman is going to feel so much more confident. She's going to feel so much more ready. She's probably going to explore more. She's going to be willing to do more. Like I talk about it being like a sling in terms of productivity. It's like a slingshot. When we pull that slingshot back and you let go, the slingshot like the rock flies very far, right? But if we don't pull a slingshot back and we just kind of hold the rubber band, it just falls. Like the rock's not going to shoot very far. So the power and the momentum and the energy comes in that pullback phase. And so think about it. I've never thought about it this way sexually, but like think about it in that phase of like, if she really has that time in that menstrual phase to really recharge herself and to feel good and to feel rested and to feel like actually nurtured myself, then when she comes into that slingshot phase, it's going to be like, man, I'm ready to go. Let's do this, you know? And so seeing it maybe even from that perspective too, of like every phase has its own power. It has its own energy. How do we support it so that all of the phases function at their optimum? We can't function at our highest libido and our highest like rocking it in the sheets phase if we're feeling wasted and depleted in the other phases too. So they all contribute, they all support.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. It's such an interesting perspective. And I love that you are on here today to talk to us about this because it's not a new phenomenon, but it is certainly at the headlines right now with all of the hormone research and things like that. And I think this just really opened my eyes, so hopefully some of the listeners too, to new ways that we can support ourselves, support our partners, our friends, and explore some fun things and give ourselves grace and allow ourselves to be okay with the fact that, hey, at this phase of my cycle, I am a sex goddess. And in this phase of my cycle, I want to be cared for. And in this phase of my cycle, don't you dare touch me. And that's okay. And that all of those are valid. And so I love that. Thank you so much for coming on here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. So before we go, we will put any links that you want in the show notes. Do you have anything that you want to specifically pump up for the audience today so they can get in touch with you or know about what you offer?
Yeah, I would say if you're in the United States, the best kind of thing to do would be go over to reneefieck.com/free book and you get a free copy of my book on Cycle Sync Your Business. It really is geared towards business, but it's applicable to, I mean, any type of work that you would do in your life. So if this resonated with you, I definitely feel like it would be a great value. And so it's free for anybody in the United States. You just pay for shipping and handling and I'll send it your way. Otherwise, Instagram is my favorite place. So if you're on Instagram, come hang out there with me just at my name, Renae Fieck, and I'll see you there. I'm on all the other platforms, but that's definitely my favorite place to be.
Yeah, that's usually where I'm at too. So awesome. So we'll put all that in the show notes so that you guys can find Renae. Thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate your expertise in this area and just a really fun Canvid conversation.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody, go have a great day and have some fun between the sheets. Thank you for joining us and exploring sexual health topics here on Between the Sheets. New episodes are available every Wednesday. Please subscribe and rate our podcast so we can reach more listeners. And don't forget to tell your friends, partners, and anyone who will listen about Between the Sheets. Send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. It's all one word, podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and go have some fun between the sheets.